Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 107 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Man, I'm doing all right, man. How about you?
I am doing great.
Yeah.
It's March Madness. I just love March Madness.
March Madness.
You know, coming up this weekend, we've got some, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday games.
Yeah.
Hopefully my Kentucky Wildcats play well and win on Friday night, and they get to play again on Sunday. If not,
man, I hope they win and keep winning, because if not, you're gonna be a grump to work with.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'll do the podcast. Yeah. I might have to shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, I know that won't happen, but
I will.
You won't be happy.
No, I won't be happy. I don't want to say that I live and die, obviously, but my mood is somewhat connected to whether or not the Kentucky Wildcat basketball team wins.
Oh.
And not just even in March. I mean, we could be in like November, December. If they lose a game,
it throws you off.
The next half day, I'm a little funky.
I mean, people would see the new studio with the blue carpet and the blue and white walls and whatever that coach's name, that big, you get that fat boy or whatever those stickers.
Calipari.
Yeah, you got that big, like, life-size sticker of him on the wall.
Sure.
Like he's coaching you.
He is. He's looking down at me and saying, you can do it.
You can do it.
Like Rob Schneider. You can do it.
Yeah. I don't know how you got it, but the net that they cut off the basketball thing.
Oh, from their last championship?
Yeah.
I got a little bit of the parquet floor.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. I just bought a little bit from eBay.
Yeah, it's weaved in there. It's pretty cool.
All right, man. We got some new Patreon supporters shout outs to give. So we had Garrett Onrate.
Hey, Garrett, thank you.
Sean Eidelman.
Awesome, Sean.
Lou Vargas. Insane Kane.
Well, Kane, it's all right.
It's all right. Hang in there, buddy.
Yeah.
Sarah McPherson.
Hey, Sarah.
Jordy Roberts.
Hey, Jordy.
Anika Ackerley.
Ooh, Anika. I just want to say Anika.
It's just fun to say.
I won't say it the rest of the day.
Katrina Woods.
Hey, Katrina.
Corange.
Just Corange?
Yeah, that might be a combination of maybe two different people. I don't know.
It's like Corey and Orange?
And
Corange?
Angie.
And Angie.
Corey and Orange. That's what you said.
There's somebody out there named Orange. I guarantee you someone's out there named Orange. I was thinking
more like a Corey and an Angie or something like that.
Might be more like it,
but
sure.
Maybe a Corey and an Orange.
Never know.
Ashley Ritchie.
Hey, Ashley.
Stephanie Leopold.
Leopold. I like that. That's like regal.
Darla Bright.
Hey, Darla. Oh, that's like, remember Spanky and the Spanky loved Darla.
You talking about the Little Rascals?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I met Spanky when he was, older, when I was a kid.
Oh, did you? Was he doing porn now or something?
No, he was at a celebrity golf tournament.
Oh, okay.
And I got his autograph. But, he was an odd duck.
Yeah, I think you like alfalfa.
John Norbach.
Hey, John.
Mary Nafe.
Hey, Mary.
Shauna Irwin.
Thank you, Shauna.
Rachel Danielson.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel.
Caitlin Noel.
Thank you, Kate.
Karen Burrows.
Karen, thank you.
Amber Gellinger.
Amber.
Katie Falliker.
Falliker?
Mm-hmm. Or Fallecker, but I'm going Falliker.
I'll go Falliker.
Debbie Rodriguez.
Hey, thank you, Debbie.
Vicky Faraci jumped up to our highest level.
Faraci.
Big shout out to her.
Sure.
And last but not least, Rachel Freer.
Hey, thanks, Rachel.
And then if we go back into the vault, Gibbs.
Go back.
This week we selected Ulysses Moore.
I feel like you need to have like a middle. We should have got the middle initial.
S. Ulysses S. Moore.
Yeah.
So longtime supporter. We appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
We had some great PayPal support as well. Michelle Mesmer.
Thank you.
Jennifer Mosier.
That's awesome.
Kira Enright.
Really?
Yep.
Thank you.
Jane Dafter.
Hey, thank you.
Sarah Richmond.
That's awesome.
And Elizabeth McKisson.
McKisson?
Who is also a Patreon supporter.
I'll say, double dipping.
Yeah.
That's okay, though.
How about that?
Double dip all you want.
All right, Gibbs, we have a True Crime All the Time episode out right now. It's on Diane Downs.
Yeah.
It's a good episode.
It's a really good episode.
It's a tough one from the standpoint that you're talking about a mother who attempted to murder her 3 children, successfully murdered one.
Yeah. Not a good mom.
But when you get into the details of Diane's life, what was going on in her life around the time of the murders, and then this whole charade.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating how everything unfolds.
You certainly shake your head.
Oh, there's no doubt. Don't forget about CrimeCon. If you're buying your badge off the CrimeCon website, make sure you use our code. Crime all the time 19.
It's the only time when crime does pay.
It does pay. You'll get 10% off of your standard badge.
You know, and we were talking about going to that Cafe Du Monde.
Sure.
And I see one of our listeners went there and posted a video, and that place was off the wall.
It's a very popular destination.
Yeah.
If you don't get there by a certain time or after a certain time, if you're there during like the rush hour morning period, you'll be lined up down the block.
Yeah, I don't do good waiting.
I know you don't, but you are an early riser.
I am an early riser.
So if you can get me up, then we can go early.
Surprised you don't say, just go down, get a box of whatever they are. Beignets, and bring them back.
And get me some coffee for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, that's a great idea. Let's just go with that.
I figured that's what you're probably going to plan on saying.
I actually had not thought about it because I wanted to sit in the cafe with you and experience it. But if I can eat them in my hotel room and you bring them back to me,
it might have to be what it is. I don't see you rolling out of your bed at the early hour.
We'll see. All right. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All Time Unsolved?
Yes.
We are talking about the abduction of Morgan Nick.
This is where the baseball field used to be, and this is where Morgan's mom, Colleen, watched her daughter over there playing. Morgan was in the parking lot by the family car with 2 other children. Colleen turned around briefly. When she went to check on Morgan, over there, she was gone.
So just a little news report to kind of kickstart this episode.
So that reporter kind of reminded me like he was trying to be like Keith with his voice.
Little Keith Morrison-y.
Yeah. How he's trying to stretch out some syllables.
But if you were a reporter, who would you rather pattern yourself after?
Mike and Gibby.
If I could talk like Keith Morrison,
oh, I know,
I would flip the switch right now.
Be gold, wouldn't it?
Be gold, Jerry.
Yeah. Every drive-through would hire you.
That's where you get your biggest bang for your buck at the drive-through, being Keith Morrison.
Wouldn't you just pull up to whatever your favorite drive-through is, and he's taking your order,
and you'd know right away.
Oh yeah,
and his voice is so distinctive.
Yeah, that'd be great for a day.
But I do think small town reporters, do they normally talk like that, or are they trying to give off an air of reporter-idness? That's not even a word. I'm just making up words now.
Yeah, you sound like me now.
But I do think they're trying to...
Yeah.
I don't want to say put on an act. That's what I was going to say, because I don't think that's correct. But they are trying to relay a certain tone that, for the story.
And he does. And there's good reason behind it.
Yeah. So Morgan Chantel Nick was born on September 12th, 1988. She was the oldest of 3 children. She was described as pretty quiet. She was a shy kid.
Yeah.
Morgan's mother, Colleen, who is a big part of this story, Gibbs.
Huge. Yeah.
Huge part of this story, has talked about the day that Morgan was born. And she said that Morgan took her breath away.
Yeah. First time she's seen her, she just knew. I remember Morgan was her first child, and, I remember my first child. I mean, I was just in awe.
I hope you do. Like if you said, I forget all about my first child.
Yeah.
That would be strange.
Yeah. But that feeling you get of like, oh my gosh, I made this.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
For me, it was a mixture of, oh my gosh, we created this, to, oh my gosh, I'm going to break this.
Yeah.
And, there's like 3 or 4 different feelings happening all at one time.
Definitely. So Colleen has said that once she's seen and held this precious child, she knew that she would do everything in her power to make her life good. And I get that. I remember the first time I held my daughter, and I can relate.
No, I can't too. Everything changes, right? From that very moment. Morgan was a beautiful and cheerful daughter, sister, granddaughter, and friend. People described her as having a contagious laugh. She had an amazing smile.
She was definitely a very cute little girl.
She was. I mean, if you look at pictures of her, and we'll put up pictures on our Facebook page as we always do.
Yeah.
She was just the cutest little girl. On June 9th, 1995, Colleen and Morgan traveled to Alma, Arkansas, to hang out with some friends and watch the kids of these friends play in a Little League baseball game. So they're at this local ballpark. And while Colleen was sitting with her friends watching the game, 6-year-old Morgan was asked by some other children to go with them and play in the parking lot.
Yeah. And it was normal to play in the parking lot at this ballpark, because I know that some people would be saying, play in a parking lot, that's not good, that's dangerous. But I guess at this particular ballpark, it was just what they did. The kids would go play in this one corner and have some fun.
So it was the norm.
It was the norm.
But Morgan told the other children no. She didn't want to go with them. We mentioned it. She was shy.
Well, she was only 6 years old.
And she's only 6 years old. But as the games continued, it started to get dark out. So they must have been playing for quite a long time. This must have been a tournament or something like that, because they're still playing at 10:30 at night.
Remember those?
I do.
Yeah.
I remember playing 4, 5, 6 games back to, right back to back to back. But at 10:30, the children came back again, and they asked Morgan again if she wanted to play with them. Now, by this time it's dark, so they said, we're going to go catch fireflies.
Yeah, that was always a good time, catching lightning bugs or whatever you want to call them.
Or fireflies, either one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, we'd get a glass jar and poke a knife through the top and to make some air holes and catch as many fireflies as you could.
Shake that jar up, make them light up. Did you ever do that?
I don't remember shaking them up. It just seemed like they lit up from time to time.
Shook them up, bounce them off the side of the... Are we going somewhere we shouldn't go?
No, but I think you might be telling on yourself as far as... You might have something in your past that necessitates some of us needing to look into you a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Well, I wanted to see the light.
No, I think that was pretty normal.
Well, this time, too, I think Morgan was getting fairly bored sitting next to her mom this whole time. So I think she was ready to go play.
Well, she's 6 years old. That's a long time. I don't know exactly what time they got there, but... for a 6-year-old to sit in any one place for too long, it's a tough ask. But you're right. I think at a certain point, Morgan was itching to go play with these kids. Her mother, Colleen, saw it in her that she wanted to go. So she told her, go. Morgan hugged Colleen around the neck and then kissed her on the cheek to say thanks. And then she ran off to the parking lot area to go catch fireflies.
Yeah, just a fun night. What kid wouldn't like that?
So Colleen is watching the ball game. And from where she was sitting, she could see both the play on the field and she could see her daughter playing in the parking lot. At about 10:45, the game wrapped up. And there was excitement, right? One team won. Those fans were excited. They must have been on the side that Colleen was on.
Sure. And I'm sure some of the parents were just excited that the game was over.
Hell, it's 10:45.
Yeah, we can finally go home.
But because of all of this excitement, Colleen lost sight of Morgan for a little bit. When she finally got to a spot where she could see them, she didn't see Morgan at all.
And we've all experienced that feeling when you don't see your kid and you should. Your heart just kind of sinks. Your stomach gets that knot.
It's terrifying.
It is. And then you finally see your kid and you're like, oh, okay. Well, that was close.
So Colleen is scanning the parking lot, with her eyes. She's looking for Morgan. Eventually, she finds these other kids that Morgan was playing with, and she asked them, where's Morgan? And the kid said that she went over to the family car. They had a Nissan Stanza. They said that she got some sand in her shoes and she wanted to go over to the car, take them off, get the sand out.
Yeah, I understand that.
Sure. Everybody that's been in that situation knows that's no fun walking around with sand in your shoe.
No. Matter of fact, I got some in my shoe now. I'm going to take it off and dump it off here in your carpet.
Please do not do it in the studio.
Okay.
So Colleen goes to the car, to find Morgan, but she's not there. She's not leaning up against the car, around the car.
Not inside the car.
No, she's not inside the car. Colleen would later say, quote, "I remember standing in front of my car thinking that if everyone would just stand still, just for a moment, that I would be able to find her, that we were somehow just missing each other."
Man, that's couldn't be said any better. I mean,
No,
I think it's how you would feel.
Yeah, and it goes back to that feeling that you're talking about, pit of your stomach. For me, it's like a twinge in the small of my back. I don't know if you've ever.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you get from when you drop a plate. I think I might have said this before. You ever get that? And sometimes you drop something and you'll catch it.
Yeah.
But you'll get this like panic. I call it like a panic pang.
Yeah. A little
Shoots up
anxiety
your
pain.
Back, your back almost locks
Tenses up. Yeah.
Yeah. So Colleen is searching. Obviously, she's not going to stop searching. But at some point, the parking lot begins to clear out. The game's over. These people are going to get into their cars. They're going home.
Yeah, I think the only people that remain will be the people that are trying to help her, the family members, friends, and then you have a few just local bystanders standing around trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and maybe you have some bystanders that know somebody's missing. They want to help out.
And it doesn't take long that they realize Morgan is definitely missing.
Yeah, I think at that point, Gibbs, Colleen knows something is very wrong. So she called the police and she told them that Morgan was missing and that she needed help right away. And the police were pretty quick to get on the scene. I think I read that it was, 5 minutes or so.
That's pretty fast.
Within 5 minutes, they responded. So that's the local police, right? They respond quickly. Within an hour, the Arkansas State Police arrived. And I can't help thinking a little bit about True Detective. This latest season, season 3, it's wrapped up. So I don't want to, spoil anything.
Right.
But for those people that haven't seen it, it does take place in Arkansas.
Okay.
And the two main characters work for the Arkansas State Police, I believe.
Well, nice little tie in there.
Yeah. So as I was, getting into the research, I couldn't help but make the correlation. And then within a few hours, both the U.S. Marshal Service and the FBI were on site.
It's a lot of power. That's a lot of...
That's 4 different agencies within a couple of hours. And like you said, it's some high-powered agencies as you get into state police, U.S. Marshals, the FBI.
Well, and you even had like some of the surrounding counties. Those law enforcement people would come in as well to lend any helping hand they could.
Sure. So at the time of her disappearance, we mentioned that Morgan was 6 years old. She was 4 feet tall. She weighed 55 pounds. Tiny little thing, but she's only 6 years old. She had blonde hair, piercing, beautiful blue eyes.
Yes, she did.
Morgan had a number of silver caps on her teeth. I think at least 5, around 5.
Yeah.
That a lot of people have said would be extremely noticeable, right? Or identifiable. Maybe that's a better word to use. She also had a large vein that stuck out on the lower left side of her rib cage. She was wearing a green Girl Scouts t-shirt, blue jean shorts, and white leather gym shoes. At the time, FBI and local communities offered a $60,000 reward for the recovery of Morgan Nick, as well as the identification, arrest, and conviction of anyone that was responsible for her abduction.
So not a bad dollar amount for back at the time for a small community.
Yeah, no, not at all. So I think by us saying that, right, very easy to infer that even though they had this mass of law enforcement converge on the scene, they had no luck in finding Morgan.
Right.
So let's talk about Alma Arkansas for just a minute, it was a very small town. We're talking a population of around 3,500 people.
That's tiny, man.
Yeah, tiny little town. The police and the other agencies were unsuccessful in their initial search, but obviously they're not going to stop. They're going to start a broader, more formal search. And as part of that, they're going to question the kids that Morgan was playing with that night. So they talk to these kids. The kids give them a rundown of the events of that day into the night as best as they can remember. But I think the most important piece of information that the children give the authorities is that they saw what they described as a pretty creepy man.
And I think that's important. Creepy. That's a big word to come up with.
It is a big, not in length, but in importance, which I think is what you're saying. And I believe, Gibbs, that kids know. Now, they might be wrong. You know, they're basing it on stereotypes. They're basing it on looks.
Right.
Sometimes that's not a bad thing for a kid to look at someone and say, that person looks creepy. I need to get away.
Right.
We always teach our kids, don't judge a book by its cover. You know, you can throw out all these cliches you want.
But no, I think you're right. I think kids have a natural sense, you know, just like your daughters thought I was a writer, professor.
/ probable serial killer.
And they were right on 2 out of 3.
You're just not saying which 2 out of 3. But I do think it's important, right, for these kids to describe the person they saw as pretty creepy looking. You know, they went on to say that this man was in his mid to upper 20s. They said they first saw him in the parking lot, but that he eventually came up to the 3 of them and he was mad.
But they really weren't sure what he was mad about. He didn't say. Was he mad because they were playing in the parking lot like most kids do? Or was he just a creepy, angry man?
But eventually he walked away and he got into a red truck that had a white camper shell top. And they added that the windows of this white camper shell top, they were all covered with curtains.
It's fancy, not
fancy. And or you don't want to see what you have in that camper?
I'm thinking maybe like that.
It was an older truck. They were basing that partly off of the paint job. The paint was very dull, they said.
Yeah. I think they said it was a smaller truck as well.
Yeah, it had they wouldn't have said this, but I think the truck has been determined to have had a short wheelbase. You know, it came out that the truck had some type of damage on the right rear end. And it also came out that the truck had Arkansas license plates. Some of this came from talking to other witnesses that were at the ball field that night.
I think they just weaved it all together.
But no doubt, whoever this man was, creepy looking man in his mid to late 20s with this red truck, was an immediate suspect, right? He had made contact with the kids. The kids said themselves he seemed creepy and suspicious.
Well, I think they probably needed to put a bolo alert out for somebody, and this is going to be the best thing that they could get out there right now.
What's probably the only thing they have right now.
Yeah.
But there was another witness that came forward giving a very similar description of an unidentified Caucasian male that this witness said was watching Morgan play on the field earlier in the night. And this witness said that the man approached the 3 children while they were playing, and he said something to them before walking away. But this witness was older, right? Maybe their memory was a little bit better. They were better at picking up details. They gave the unidentified person's age range as 23 to 30 years old, said he was about 6 foot tall, weighed in the area of 180 pounds.
Yeah. They said he had black or salt and pepper hair, and it was combed straight back. And they also said he had a mustache and maybe 2, 3, 4 days worth of beard growth. That's always hard to tell, right? I mean, I could stop shaving and it wouldn't be really show up for maybe 3 days. Would I get that scruff look?
Yeah, your 3-day growth is my afternoon growth.
Yeah, exactly.
If I shave in the morning, by the afternoon, I look like a damn chia pet.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, they noticed that he had a very hairy chest.
For whatever reason, they were drawn, Gibbs. What do you mean, what reason?
Well,
you're drawn to a hairy-chested man.
Magnum PI?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is a lot of detail, though.
It is.
From this other witness. I mean, the kids were great in what they gave, but this other witness, being an adult, was really able to add some good things to it. You know, they said that this man wore cut off blue jean shorts, had no shirt on, hence the hairy chest.
Well, there you go.
Also didn't have any shoes and spoke with a Gibby type dialect.
Well,
I'm sorry. It was a hillbilly type dialect.
Well, you know, it's a southern, very southern accent. There you go. Just call me Jed. I wonder how many people will understand that. Call me Jed.
I think a lot of people will get it.
They remember the Clampets?
I think they will. I mean, even if you weren't alive to watch it when it was on, most of us weren't. I watched the reruns like crazy.
Yeah. You like the Granny.
Well, I was going to say, I think you're more like Granny than you are Jed.
Oh, ouch.
Actually, you're probably more like
Jethro?
Yeah, you're probably more like Jethro than any of them.
I'm trying to remember the daughter's name now.
Ellie Mae.
Ellie Mae.
How can you forget that?
Well, I remember what she'd look like. I just couldn't remember what her name was.
All right, Gibbs, let's take a quick break to talk about The Real Real, the leading reseller of authenticated luxury from top designers. You can shop from designers like Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Rolex, Cartier, and hundreds more at up to 90% off retail. They get new merchandise in every day, and every single item is authenticated by The Real Real's team of experts. But you can also consign your own goods, women's and men's luxury fashion, as well as fine jewelry, watches, art, home items, and you have options. You can shop online. You can visit one of their stores. New customers receive an automatic $25 off at checkout. You've heard me talk about it before. I love watches. I love to go on the Real Real website, look at Tag Heuers, look at Breitlings, look at things that I probably would never buy new, but I can afford them on the Real Real. So shop in-store, online, or download the app and get 20% off select items with the promo code REAL. That's therealreal.com, promo code REAL for 20% off select items. All right, so we have this pretty detailed description of a man that was said to have been suspicious. He's got to be on police radar. He's their number one suspect. And then police are going to learn something that it's got to kick their suspicion into overdrive, because they learned that on the same day that Morgan Nick disappeared. Now, it was much earlier in the day. There was an attempted abduction of a 4-year-old girl in Alma by what people said was a man in a red truck.
Kind of a red flag.
I would say. Probably more than a red flag.
Right.
But this abduction didn't happen. The 4-year-old screamed and was saved by her mother. And then they learned about another attempted abduction that happened just the day after Morgan disappeared. And this was in Fort Smith, Arkansas, about 15 miles from Alma.
It's just up the road.
Not too far. 15 miles is not far at all. A 9-year-old girl was almost abducted. A man tried to get this 9-year-old to go into the men's restroom with him, but she resisted and she ran away. But both of these attempted abductions are very important.
Yeah, oh, extremely.
Because when police learn about them, obviously they go and talk to the people involved. And what they hear from the people involved in both of these incidents is a description of the man that tried to abduct these two girls. And it's basically carbon copy.
Yeah, I mean, it's evident when they have their sketch artists talked to all of these families and witnesses, he was able to put together a composite sketch of this individual. And the families, the witnesses all agreed. That looks like the guy. So the police distribute this to all the agencies and hope that somebody, could identify whoever this individual is.
Now, in the days after Morgan's disappearance, her mother, Colleen, she hid it from Morgan's siblings, the fact that she was missing. At the time, Morgan had two younger siblings, 4-year-old Logan and 2-year-old Taryn. And I think Gibbs, Colleen's reasoning was she didn't want to worry these very young children because they were going to find Morgan very quickly.
Yeah, why get them all upset if you really believe that, hey, we're gonna find Morgan. She's gonna be fine. We're gonna be a whole unit again. Life will be fine.
Now we know that's not going to happen, but that was her thinking at the time. But eventually, as time went by, it had to be explained, and it was up to Morgan's dad to tell the other kids, and he told them Morgan is lost. And obviously this caused, even at that young age, 4 years old, 2 years old, and the kids cried. They were heartbroken. This was their big sister. They hadn't seen her. Now they're being told that she's lost. We don't know where she is. And not just heartbroken, they were upset. Colleen has said that 4-year-old Logan, aside from the crying, asked her, "Why did you lose my sister?" You talk about heartbreaking.
Oh my gosh, it would be devastating to hear that.
I mean, number one, your heart is breaking from the fact that you can't find your oldest, your 6-year-old. Now your 4-year-old has essentially blamed you,
called you out
for losing Morgan. So weeks go by. There's daily press conferences being held, sometimes more than one a day.
Well, they had a 24/7 hotline set up for any tips, any leads, so that would come in and to the different agencies could take those on.
And during this whole time, the Nick family was in Alma, and they spent weeks in a local hotel there while the searches were going on. I think for them, they couldn't go home without Morgan. And I think that would be the same for you and I. I think that's the same for everyone listening. You are not going to leave your 6-year-old daughter and go back home, no matter how far it is.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to Dayton. Call me if you catch any leads.
Right. You are going to spend your last dime to stay right there where your daughter was last seen. It's not even a question.
No.
The problem is they don't find Morgan quickly as Colleen had thought they would. And 2 years later, with her still missing, the family made the decision to actually move to the town of Alma so they could continue to be right in the center of where the investigation was going on.
Yeah. I mean, they believe Morgan is going to be found, and they want to make sure they are there. They are ready when that happens.
Around 1996, Colleen and her husband started the Morgan Nick Foundation to aid in the immediate assistance of a child abduction. Gibbs, this is just about a year after Morgan went missing.
Well, I'm thinking they needed something to, one, keep them busy.
Exactly.
But also, they were living this. They were going through what they knew other parents were going to have to go through one day. I mean, I guess you could call it, and I hate saying it, I mean, kind of like a playbook on how to deal with and what do you do when this happens? Because I think some people will just be frozen.
Oh, there's no doubt. Well, think of it this way. Who has gone through this situation?
Right.
Very few people. And if it happened to you, you would have no experience. You would be left with what? Contacting the police, and that was it.
Yeah.
Now, you have the Nicks who have a year of it under their belt. They have dealt with the ins and outs. Who better?
Well, sure. Because now you know, where do I spend my time? Where do I not waste my resources and time?
And I think that's the key, right? With anything, take us doing the podcast.
Right.
There are so many things that we did early on that were wasteful.
Sure.
And you fine tune things as you go along. So if you have somebody that can help you that's been doing something for a long time, they're going to tell you, don't do that. Don't waste your time doing that. Nothing's going to come from it.
Right.
You're going to get frustrated. It's going to be a waste of time.
Right. Spend all your efforts over in this area.
Colleen started out and still is the foundation's director, and she makes sure that it not only lends a hand to families going through this type of crisis, but also helps with prevention, education programs for communities, children, schools. She's been quoted as saying, there's a great need to do something of value for your child when something tragic happens. And for us, that was our way of fighting back against the evil that had happened. So essentially, what you said, Gibbs, they needed to channel.
Yeah. Take that energy and do something good with it.
Do something good with it. And when you listen to Colleen, because she's out there a lot, she's done a lot of interviews. There is a lot of, sound bites of her. She just felt like she had to fight for Morgan, would never give up the fight for Morgan. And she wanted to fight for all the kids that went missing each year. On June 9th, 1996, that was the 1-year anniversary of Morgan's abduction. A pink balloon was released in her honor.
Yeah, it was her favorite color. It makes sense.
Then in February 97, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released an aged progression photo of Morgan, who at that point would have been 8 years old. A few years later, the police put out another composite sketch of the suspect in Morgan's disappearance case. And then in 2001, the Center for Missing and Exploited Children released another age progression photo of Morgan, because by that time she would have been 12 years old. And then later that year, her case aired on Unsolved Mysteries. And you and I know what that type of exposure can do. It brought national attention to Morgan's case.
Well, I think it's important, right? All this time, they're trying to keep her in the media by letting out these, what she might look like at this age, what the suspect looks like now. I think it's just keeping it fresh out in the media, not letting it die, not letting it slip away.
Well, because what else do they have? I mean, we're going through a number of years here. What you don't hear us talk about is any big breaks, any leads, new suspects. There's just not much in this case, right? In those years. But the police did receive thousands of tips regarding Morgan's disappearance. People have claimed to have seen her all over the place.
Yeah.
Again, that makes it very tough for police. You got to check some of that out, but are 99.9% of those, I saw someone that looked like her?
Exactly.
Most likely they are.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking a young girl, you could easily get them confused with somebody else, I think.
Now, we don't get as many leads now as we did in the beginning, but they still come in and they continue to make, our case file larger as we work them.
Yet the clue to Morgan Nick's whereabouts or her abductor is still out there.
Our family understands that a lot of people don't think that Morgan survived. But even if that's the case and Morgan didn't survive, what that means is then that we have a killer who's walking around in our communities and needs to be brought to justice. It really goes back to the fact that somebody knows what happened. And they may not even be aware that they hold the key piece of information, but somebody knows what happened.
So that was Colleen in the second half. In the first part of that was the police talking about the tips that they get. In January of 2002, the police received a tip from an individual that said they knew Morgan was buried in a certain location. So on January 15th, the police went to a parcel of land in Boonville, Arkansas, and they started to dig on this land in the area where the tipster claimed Morgan was buried. And apparently Gibbs, whoever called to make this tip, was very specific about where to dig, so specific that the police brought out a search dog.
But as they dug around the area and the search dog didn't pick up on anything, so they really never found anything of importance that they could tie back to Morgan.
Well, and obviously they didn't find her body for sure. You know, that would have been what they were really looking for. But beyond that, like you said, they didn't find clothes. They didn't find anything that could tie back to Morgan. So my assumption is they had to declare that this was a hoax.
Well,
hoax
and,
tip.
And you're right. And I think around 9:30 that night, they called the dig off and said, wrap it up. We're done. We're going to move on.
So we mentioned the airing on Unsolved Mysteries. Over the next few years, Morgan's case was showcased on America's Most Wanted,
which is a big time show.
That was huge, man. I never wanted to miss America's Most Wanted. Her story was even told on the show Extreme Makeover.
Yeah.
And now that seems strange in the realm of true crime.
Right.
But what came out was that the Nick family home was heavily damaged when a water heater exploded.
Yeah.
And you and I know all too well from our professional lives,
right,
what an exploding water heater can do. It's like a freaking missile.
Yeah.
Going off in your house. It's why in California, they make you strap them down. Is there places other than California? That's the only one I remember.
Any earthquake zones, yeah.
I know we don't have to here.
No. But we do have to add a special valve now, too. So
yeah, I've got that on mine. So this water heater essentially tore up their home, and Extreme Makeover came in to redo it.
Yeah. Wanted to help the family out, give them a little break, you know, from all the things that they've went through, and plus all the good that they've done for missing and exploited children. So I think it was a nice thing they did. So this was the opportunity for Morgan's story to be told again in the public light.
21 years ago today, at this time of the day, we had no idea that our lives would change in just a few hours, that Morgan's life would be forever changed, and that our family would be forever changed. It feels like it's been a lifetime since Morgan's been gone, since we started fighting for her, and yet it seems like she was just here yesterday, that she was this precious, bubbly, laughing 6-year-old girl with dreams. Love always hopes, doesn't quit, doesn't get tired, doesn't give up, doesn't go away. We know that kids survive, and we have to keep fighting for them and give them the opportunity to come home. Until someone can show me that Morgan didn't survive, I'm absolutely going to fight for her. And I do believe that I will look her in the eye someday, and I will be able to say to my daughter, I always knew that I would find you.
That's heartbreaking, man.
It is very heartbreaking. Now, this clip comes later in time.
Sure.
But the reason why I wanted to play it here, and obviously this is an audio format, you can't see, but if you watch the video that this clip came from, the interview with Colleen is being conducted in Morgan's bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
And you can see what they did on the Extreme Makeover show. Her bedroom is like a show palace.
Yeah.
Just waiting for her to return.
One day, she'll walk into this beautiful room and have the room.
It's absolutely gorgeous. And some of the things that Colleen quoted there, she has in stencil up on Morgan's wall.
Awesome.
So it kind of all tied in. Unfortunately, you can't see it because this is not a video format. On January 9th, 2009, the Arkansas State Police revamped their notification system for abducted and missing children to speed up notification alerts. And in honor of Morgan Nick, they added her name onto the Amber Alert in the state of Arkansas.
The Missing Child Advisory, known as the Morgan Nick Alert, is now Arkansas's Amber Alert Plan. Jeff Presley sits on the board for the Morgan Nick Foundation and says the intention of the name change is to bring clarification to future child abduction cases.
We just followed the lead of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and followed the Amber Alert system. Really, there was no difference in the alerts, just the name.
Amber Alerts no longer have levels. Instead, they are classified as Amber Alerts or Missing and Endangered Child Advisories. Officers must have reasonable belief that an actual abduction has occurred and have enough descriptive information about the victim and abduction for law enforcement to assist in their recovery. Arkansas's Amber Alert Plan will only be activated if the case meets the minimum requirements for child abduction put forth by the Department of Justice. Incidents involving runaways and parental abductions will not be included unless the child is believed to be in imminent danger.
In 2010, authorities got another tip, and it was that they needed to take a look at a vacant house in the town of Spiro, Oklahoma. So on November 15th of that year, the FBI and the U.S. Marshals, they go search this house. And I think as part of this tip, information must have been given that Morgan Nick was, at least for some period of time, hidden away at this house. Because, FBI, U.S. Marshals, the authorities, they're looking for any DNA evidence that can prove that fact, that ties Morgan Nick to this vacant house. But like with a lot of things in this case, they come up empty.
And this has to be a disappointment to the family.
Well, I think if you get a tip, right, all of a sudden you're at DEFCON 5. Is that the high one?
Or 1.
Is it DEFCON 1 is the highest?
I can't remember. I know we went through this and we got called out on it.
We did.
Called out again.
I always forget.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think it's because I wasn't in the military. They're at the highest state of alert. Let me say it that way. And they have to be so anxious, right, to get to this house, to do the search. And the family at some point has to be extremely hopeful that this is finally going to be what breaks this wide open and either helps them find Morgan or helps them find out what happened to Morgan.
Yeah.
But again, they don't find out anything. Then in the summer of 2012, 2 previously convicted felons were arrested for computer fraud after attempting to assume the identity of Morgan Nick.
That's pretty low, man.
It is. I think it happens more frequently than we'd like to believe.
Yeah, I just think it's wrong. I can see, I know people that have passed on their identity. I mean, this little girl, no matter how old she is at this point, is still missing. Don't be messing with that kind of stuff.
No, I get it. But do you honestly believe that felons out to, break the law are considering the moral high ground at that point?
Oh, no, you're right.
They don't care. So it was Tanya Renee Smith and a guy by the name of James Monhart. They tried to steal Morgan Nick's birth certificate and some other vital documents, but they were caught and arrested. But like you said, Gibbs, it's really low. If they knew, and I'm sure they did,
sure,
who this girl was, the situation behind her disappearance, they're looking to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I just think it's just wrong. Felon or not. Come on. Don't do that kind of stuff.
In 2015, the 2 children that were playing with Morgan spoke out for the first time because we really haven't talked much about them, Gibbs. This could not have been easy for them either. This would have been a very traumatic experience in their lives.
Yeah.
It took them a very long time to be able to come out and talk about the events of that night.
And it could have been one of them that was abducted that night instead of her. And I wonder if that sinks into them sometimes.
Oh, I don't even think you have to wonder. I think it would be something that you would think about very often. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children also released another age progressed photo of what Morgan might look like. because we're 20 years on, right? After her abduction, she would have been about 25, 26 years old. And then at the end of 2017, the FBI and U.S. Marshals went back to that same house that we talked about in Spiro, Oklahoma. They got another tip. And so they went back out to conduct another search. This time they brought in cadaver dogs to assist in the search, and the cadaver dogs hit on a well that was on the property.
And this all centered around the tip that was given that potentially her body was in the well.
But they searched the well and they didn't find anything. But you have to wonder, right? Why did the cadaver dogs hit on that well? Could be a lot of reasons. But this house is interesting just for the fact that multiple tips came in about it. Multiple searches were done. But even so, they didn't find any evidence and they discontinued the search the very next day.
So again, the family has to be frustrated because this is a house they went to twice, right? I mean, in the last 10 years, they've been to this house 2 times searching it. It has to have something to do with her disappearance for multiple tips to come in, for the police or the authorities to feel it was worth the resources to go out and investigate it the first time, the second time come out and do some digging, to bring out the dogs, to spend the time they did at this site. I just think there's something more there to it, and I just wish that they could find something to tie Morgan there.
Well, no, it sounds like they tried. So the question I think is, were these tips credible? Or you could look at it this way. What if somebody had a beef with this person that lived there and just decided, you know what? I'm going to make your life a living hell.
Well, it's true.
I'm going to call in these tips that say your property is linked with the disappearance of Morgan Nick.
Yeah.
That could happen.
It could. And we know he used to have a red truck with a white camper top.
Right.
That's right there enough to get somebody a little suspicious.
Colleen has said that every day is hard. And sometimes it immobilizes her, but she knows she has to keep moving. She has to keep fighting for Morgan and the others. I think she looks at it as her job, right? Not only to fight for Morgan, she's still searching for her daughter. She'll never give up on that. But now she's taken on the fight for, all of these other missing kids. She doesn't want any of them to be forgotten. And one quote from Colleen kind of got to me. And it's a short quote. She said, "In a second, your world could change." And that is so true, right? We walk through life. Everything's great. We've got our family. We have our health. But in an instant, in a second, something like this could happen and turn your world completely upside down.
Hey man, would it ever?
It would.
Yeah.
I think about like the Adam Walsh case, right? He's in the department store. He's playing with the video game. His mom's, in another aisle. She comes back. All of a sudden he's gone. Completely changed their world forever.
It's tragic, man. It just really is. And, we're sitting here recording this knowing that when this episode rolls out, somebody will be abducted this weekend when this rolls out.
It's scary. It happens way too often.
It's sad.
So there have been some leads, right? Some that we've talked about in the years since Morgan has gone missing, but the case remains unsolved. But I think you heard in some of the clips, Morgan's family, Morgan's mother, Colleen especially, none of them have given up. They remember her every day. They're doing everything they can do to keep her memory alive, but also the hope alive. And they continue to search out any lead that might bring Morgan back to them. I mean, one of the things that Colleen has talked about over the years is the fact that she knows that only 2% of long-term missing and abducted children survive. But she looks at that 2% and says that it gives her the strength to fight and keep looking for Morgan and the other kids that are part of the 2% so she can bring them home. I think, Gibbs, she honestly believes Morgan is going to be part of that 2%. She's going to come home one day and they're going to run into each other's arms and live happily ever after. I truly believe that.
And it can happen.
It could happen.
We've seen long-term abducted children return.
Yeah. And Colleen has pointed that out, right? The JC Dugards and those types of people that I think many people wrote off as being deceased, they made it back.
Yeah.
So, but that's it. That's the case of the abduction of Morgan Nick. All right, Gibbs, we got voicemails. You want to hear those?
Yeah.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Megan again from Painesville, Ohio. I just got done listening to the West Memphis 3 case. You guys are doing such an awesome job on covering that case. I wanted to recommend a case. It's called the Kirtland Cult Killings in Kirtland, Ohio, Lake County. It is the biggest mass murder that they've had in Lake County ever. A man named Jeffrey Lundgren who murdered an entire family who used to be his followings back in April of 1989. I've actually just learned about this case. I've been living in Lake County since I was 3, and I had no idea. So I definitely think it'd be a good case for you guys to cover on True Crime all the time. Again, keep up the good work. I love you both, Team Mike and Gibby, and keep your own time ticking. Bye.
Wow. Appreciate the kind comments about the West Memphis 3. And that sounds like an interesting case I'm not familiar with.
Shocking that it happened in Ohio.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah.
For TCAT. So we'll definitely write that down and do some research.
Absolutely.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Gibby. I've just been listening to, the beginning of this week's True Crime All the Time Unsolved, and y'all talking about beignets and coffee and orange juice. And I have to say the best thing to go with a beignet is a hot chocolate. I've been to New Orleans 3 or 4 times. Café du Monde, the best place in New Orleans for hot chocolate and beignets. So I hope you enjoy and keep your own time ticking. Bye.
Well, that was timely since we were just talking about it.
We were.
I think for you, that is the best suggestion.
I think I might go with that.
Hot chocolate. Now, for me, it's not because I'm a coffee fiend.
Yeah.
I have to have my coffee.
I'll get me some hot chocolate and a beignet.
And a beignet. And I'm going to let you do the ordering.
Yeah.
And I'm going to secretly record it so that I can play it.
I'm going to put some stuff in my mouth so it mumbles up a little bit more.
Why would you have to do that?
To give me more like a New Orleans accent.
Nobody can understand what the hell you're saying anyway.
You're a beignet.
Can I get a beignet?
Beignet.
Beignet.
Hey guys, this is Dixie. I just finished listening to episode 3 about the Memphis 3. And the funny thing is, I had heard so much about it, I thought, well, I don't know that I'm really interested. And then I thought, get a hold of yourself, Dixie. This is your guys. And so I listened to it, and I want to tell you, it's like I've never heard it before. I can't wait for the next episode. You have done the most amazing job. You covered the facts. You kept it interesting, all the good things. And let me tell you, I hear you're going to come pick me up. And I want to tell you, you're welcome here anytime. All roads lead to Bowling Green. Keep your own time ticking. Bye-bye.
Ah, we love Dixie.
We do.
She said, get a hold of yourself, Dixie.
Yeah.
These are my boys.
That's right.
Why do I feel like Dixie probably makes some unbelievable biscuits and gravy? That's what I'm getting this vibe. I'm getting a biscuits and gravy vibe from Dixie.
Let's go find out.
And I love biscuits and gravy.
We get there, she'll be like, boys, I don't cook, but there's a really good restaurant down the road. Let's go.
That's all right. We'll take you there.
We'll say, let's go.
And if not, there's always a Waffle House, and I love Waffle House.
They get Waffle House 24/7.
This is N. Friender of ThrashMetalShow.com, and I'm going to recommend that Mike and Gibby do an unsolved episode on the murder of Jeanette De Palma, Depalma. Unsolved murder, teenage girl, 1972, in the heart of the Garden State, New Jersey. Give it a look. There's a book, Death on the Devil's Teeth, that covers it comprehensively. Worthwhile addition to the extraordinary lineup of podcasts episodes from True Crime All the Time, True Crime All the Time Unsolved, True Crime All the Time Patreon only. So keep up the good work and keep your own head banging.
All right. So first voicemail from Friender.
Yeah.
But has been an amazing supporter of the show.
Yes.
All of our shows for a long time.
Yes.
On Patreon. I mean, just forever.
Definitely appreciate them.
Yeah, we appreciate that a lot. So we will look into that case.
Heavily.
And Gibbs will bang his head as he's doing his research.
I normally do bang my head.
While you're listening to your motley crew.
Yeah. Or sometimes you bang my head because...
Okay, that didn't come out good at all. I think you're steering us in...
Did I go the wrong direction?
Yeah, I think you're steering us in a very bad direction.
Yeah.
Why would I bang your head, first of all?
You bounce it off the wall every now and then.
Oh, yeah.
Gibbs, come on.
Because that's the kind of relationship we have.
Well, it's that or you shoot those little darts at me sometimes while we record.
I might do that.
Yeah, that hurts.
I have a blowgun, and if I don't like what Gibby says, I just shoot one right in the side of his neck.
I know, you got to see my neck. Sometimes it bleeds pretty heavily.
All right, everyone. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking. Hey, TCAT fans, don't forget about The Real Real. Own iconic luxury items at unreal values with The Real Real. They are the leading reseller of authenticated luxury from top designers at up to 90% off retail. Every item is authenticated and new customers receive an automatic $25 off at checkout. So shop in store, online, or download the app and get 20% off select items with the promo code REAL. Go to therealreal.com and use the promo code REAL.